All right, what is good, everybody? Back on G'd Up University, and we have the Dr. B. Harris back in the studio. What is good, my guy?
Everything's good. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to finally, um, like I said, just put a drop into the ocean of greatness that y'all got going over here, that we got going on over here. And so, man, let's do this, man. How you been?
I'm good, man. So, for those who are wondering what I've been up to, I've been working on my dissertation,
Hey,
editing clips in between, trying to get this thing going. So, just trying to be productive, and then hopefully we'll have a good update for y'all this spring with some news about my PhD program. But
shoot.
let's talk about you, because everybody's wondering, where's Dr. B. Harris been? So you got it. Well, I'm gonna let you describe the things you got going on, and then let's go from there.
So I mean, where can I start, man? Just
You're a professor.
definitely.
One.
So starting there with work, it's been a blessing, so very busy, but that's a good problem to have. I would rather be busy doing what I love, doing what I'm passionate about doing. I'm also part of a research team right now that looks at student and teacher interaction, and as well as student and counselor interaction as well,
Nice. So
looking
this
at
is in high school or in college?
higher learning. So yeah,
Nice.
so different campuses across California, looking at the student teacher demographic and the student teacher interaction, utilizing software to help those students and trying to determine success rates. So I'm glad and happy to be a part of that. I got pulled in by a distinguished professor, and so research team teaching research methods at a few schools. Um, USC, Rochester School of Education, they offer the research methods class every once a year. I'm at the Chicago School teaching research methods.
Well, damn.
I'm at Fullerton teaching African American Studies classes. That's been fun,
Nice.
right, man? Just yesterday, we talked about some deep stuff, and I love prepping for those classes, getting ready to drop some good stuff on them. And so, for y'all that don't know me, researcher, educator, consultant to higher education and program management, and just I consider myself the bridge builder. Between classroom and career, I want to make sure that students make their passions their paychecks, right? Because a lot of students they're giving up on what education has been selling to them so far when it comes to get this degree and then get this job. A lot of the new generation are starting to wake up where I'm identifying an unmet need. These students they want to go to college, but they want to feel like they're doing it and not wasting their time. And so that's one of the things that I'm totally passionate about, and ultimately passionate about making sure that that bridge between college and career is sturdy. It is for sure. I've been talking a lot about that with y'all, with the team. But for those that are listening, that's one of my passion areas in this arena of education, and just adding, making it fun, adding music to it, adding skits, all the things that, people go on their phone and to see. I try to bring that to life into the classroom so they, again, don't fall asleep and don't disconnect. So, yeah, man.
That's what's up. So, for those who don't know you, let's take this back
Okay.
to when you were younger and what got you into your very fruitful and insightful research and your career in higher education. So, take us back to
Take us back.
how it all started for you to get to this point.
Um, so back as early as I can remember, I began with a strong interest in art and graphics, right? And so drawing, instead of like, oh, I want this new video game, I want this new this, I'll be more excited by getting a stack of blank paper and just um, being able to sharpen my pencils or my color pencils. Like this worst thing to having some dull edges on it, you can't really draw like that. So I was just drawing like all cartoons, comic books, and things like that. I made my first comic book in middle school, The Adventures of Brandon Harris. Just folded some paper, I got the portrait size blank sheets of paper, folded it in half this way, like a booklet, stapled it down the middle, drew boxes. Didn't even know about creating a storyboard or anything like that. I just drew boxes. I didn't know what the story was going to be. I didn't consider.
You was doing TikToks before TikTok.
I guess so, man. And then so I just was like, I can create one of these, and it got a lot of people's attention and a lot of family members, and they supported me and my art. And so I was like, I want to go into graphic design, and so one of my so I got a bachelor's in graphic design, and I went from there. I did a lot of logos, and this was in print. I used to work at a print shop, and a lot of people saw my work, and I was able to actually start doing some graphics and doing some work for Snoop, right?
Okay.
So in addition to, I did some logos. I did the Boss Lady Entertainment logo for Shante, his wife, the original logo, her sitting in the chair. I also painted murals as well in their home for their daughter, Corey. So Corey on the wall with a butterfly. We'll do some Christmas cards and stuff like that. So I was like, wow, man, I considered myself at the time, if I get enough clients at this magnitude, I can be the graphic designer for the stars or whatever. Like, how people, I'm the barber for the stars. I was like, I can do that. But I also enjoyed teaching as well. And so that is another piece where I started to go down another avenue, though. So what about, so no, I'm gonna wait. Because I always feel like, hey, let me give you a second to talk. Because I'm talking about myself a lot, so I don't want to just talk about myself.
Yeah. Well, for me, we talked about this in the previous episode, but again, like for me, higher education was something that my mom always instilled in me. So I just kind of did it, aimlessly for a little bit while I was in middle school and high school, just expecting, a college education was just going to get you from point A to point B. And then as I got further along, I became more critical of it. So, I started to realize, especially later on when I was a professional. So for those who don't know, I used to be a college counselor, and I did some teaching at Sacramento State. So, that's what, that foundation helped lead me to my PhD in higher education that I'm working on right now at UCLA. But, once I got introduced to some of the issues of maybe not so much misinformation, but the lack of information, right, with financial aid, just not knowing the resources to navigate college as a first-generation student. So eventually I started working with the Educational Opportunity Program, and then that's where I started to see things from behind the scenes, because I didn't even know general education until I was working there. And then that's what I had to learn, because that was part of my job, was to help students find their classes. And, a lot of the efforts were towards helping students graduate. And then that's what got me to my research interest in the racial wealth gap of college graduates, because, we're graduating students, but they're not making the same money, not having the same salaries as their other counterparts. Specifically, black and brown students aren't making the same over time as their white and Asian counterparts. So that's a problem. You could just graduate more students, but that's only going to perpetuate the gap, and it's going to increase over time. So that's what I'm really trying to solve with my research, and that's my dissertation and the foundation for my nonprofit, Higher Roots. So, that's a little bit about my higher education background. I always didn't want to go to school, but eventually I found my niche once I was able to get into my first master's program and really get a deep dive into how higher education connects with policy. Mm-hmm. So I guess to bring it back to you, so you did talk about graphic design and who you knew in the industry. So for those who don't know, you are from Los Angeles. So maybe take us through that, because I think there are a lot of youth from the community that want to hear back from individuals that look like them that have been through your experiences. So give them some inspiration on what you were able to.
Definitely. So, hearing you mention the OP program and how that gave you your start of knowing the behind the scenes of education, we got that in common. I used to work at the ELP Education Opportunity Program at my school as well. So that's dope. And I got a chance to see what happens on the student services side as I was pursuing my graphic design degree. And I was actually working in the graphic design department at the ELP, doing all the tickets and the flyers and stuff like that. And so, but I always liked sociology because I was always, in addition to doing my art classes and web and all, taking care of those upper division classes, I would get A's in psychology, sociology. And so I actually tried to get my MFA because I always wanted to teach. But the department that I was trying to get into, they were like, we're looking for candidates with more work experience that actually can bring something to the classroom. And so I tried, got told no or got denied, and then I was like, you know what? Instead of going where I'm going to be tolerated, they're going to probably barely let me in after working at the print shop and doing all that for a couple of years. I'm going to go where I'm celebrated. And that was in the sociology department. So I got my master's in sociology. And my focus was on incarcerated parents and the impact that they have on their offspring, right? And so speaking about LA, I was influenced to focus on that topic because of what I would see in LA. I had friends, close friends, play cousins and stuff that had fathers that weren't there because they were incarcerated. And as we started to get older, playing basketball or playing video games for them actually turned into a life of, getting into encounters with the law, in a bad way. And so I just was like, I wanted to study that. And so I went to all, public schools in LA, Angeles Mesa, Hillcrest, Audubon, Dorsey, all on the the King and Crenshaw area. And so I really was, that's where my start to kind of not so much leave art and music and things of that behind, but actually use it in education and designing my PowerPoints in a creative way that keep the attention of students, making songs that are connected to my lessons, and then having students, if they miss an assignment for extra credit, you got to listen to this song that I made and connected to conflict theory or symbolic interactionism.
Nice. Making those connections.
So they know what those theories argue and they know what those theories mean, but then they have to connect it to one of my songs. And so, just doing things that are different to keep students engaged and interacting and not seeing you as somebody that just doesn't care, right? And so, but yeah, growing up in LA, certain opportunities, certain resources, going to schools where the property value is lower than schools that are placed in neighborhoods where the property value is higher. So the money from that property goes to the schools, goes to new books, goes to new programs, and that help them become college ready. It's different at the public school setting. There's a lot of suffering that happens because of those lack of resources, and so I was interested in that bridging. Like I said, now that fast forward, bridging the gap between college career, I think we have something in common. Again, you want to make sure that these graduates of color or from a low social economic status can compete with other individuals that have the same degree. The only difference is their background. They went to a private school, or a school that has resources.
Yes.
That's the only difference, but they should still be getting the same amount of pay. and I'm on board. And one of my passions is making your passion your paycheck and bridging a smooth transition from college to career. So, and that's why we start working with each other
Exactly.
and on what we see today and what we're doing called G'd Up. So, yeah, man, that's dope.
Well, take us through, because your dissertation is very interesting, and it might have been repetitive of what you already discussed. But let's talk about what your dissertation research was on, because I think a lot of maybe even future doctoral students might want to be able to relate to and get to know about.
So it's funny that I just noticed this the other day as I was in class, showing some of my students some examples of research, and you can actually type in Google right now, Brandon D. Harris representation, and my dissertation comes up. So
We'll put the link in the link tree too, so don't worry about that.
yeah, for all my link people that but if you type it in, so I tell my students that I'm like, but it's that easy. And it's also like a subtle flex too that I wrote one of the books on representation, but the title is Representation as Motivation: First Generation African American Male Students' Perspectives on Teachers of Shared Identity. So that whole dissertation is about representation, about validation, about sense of belonging. All right, I use a theoretical framework that includes critical race theory, validation theory, and gender theory, because in the title you can see that you can see that I'm looking at this study through the lens of that theoretical framework. I'm mentioning race, critical race theory. I'm mentioning representation, so that's validation, validation theory, and sense of belonging. And I'm also mentioning gender as well and sex. So I'm using that gender theory to look at how students, whether or not they are empowered by being in a classroom led by a classroom leader that looks like them, right? And so I was able to, my population was, of course, first generation African American male college students at two different parts of higher learning. So at the community college level and at the university level, because I wanted to target both settings so that when people read my research, they won't say that, oh, this is only specific to 4-year, or this is only specific.
And you're always
to
going to get that pushback anyway.
Yeah.
That's how research is.
Research, yeah, you'll be surprised. They go in, they're more critical than the people you find in the comment section on Instagram sometimes. So. But yeah, you can't make everybody happy with one research project. You can't save the world in one. That's why you put in your chapter 5 what you're gonna do next.
Right.
So yeah, the project is all aligned with what I'm interested in still.
So in the previous episode, we talked about how I was able to manage being able to socialize and still be in a doctoral program. And so I feel like that's what we have in common. We're able to be ourselves outside of the academics and still go back and, be the top-notch, scholars that we are. So I guess my question is, in addition to that, you have multiple roles. Like we mentioned earlier, you're a new father, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You're a husband, you are a professor, and now you are, a part of the G'd Up University podcast.
Thank you.
So how are you able to manage all of that, especially that you teach at 4 different institutions? How do you do all that and still be able to commit to each commitment?
You just got to plan out your day and stick to it. And if something falls between the cracks, don't beat yourself up about it. Just add whatever you needed to do on that day to the next day's to-do list. And, don't be too hard on yourself, because we have these unrealistic to-do lists sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then, we have it. I say unrealistic because you want to aim for the stars and, but that's okay. You aim further enough, you might land on the moon. So I had to let myself know that I have to structure out my time. I structure out my whole calendar for the semester, and I treat what I have to do as if it's a class of my own. It's I literally create a syllabus for
What's that
myself.
accountability for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So if I have if I have a semester goal, I break that down by the month, and from there that trickles down to how do I get to that goal at the end of the month? What am I going to be doing on a weekly basis? And then I break that down to a daily basis, and then I break that down to literally the hours.
Hourly.
And so that's what I mean by if I don't get something done within that hour because of traffic or because, I didn't factor in get some food because you need food. So it's all about planning. And I guess I fell in love with planning recently because I used to be a real go with the flow type of guy. But then I realized how much my life can benefit from me putting a little bit of structure to it. And it really helped. So I end up getting the Outstanding Graduate Student Award.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. From when I got my doctorate, and so this award was only offered to one student, and
Which was
me.
Gotta let them know, right?
Yeah. So and less than about 2% of the I was a part of a 2% population of Black males. So imagine like that percentage getting this award at a predominantly or historically white serving institution, now Hispanic serving institution, Cal State Fullerton. So it was a big deal, and they looked at my community engagement, my on-campus engagement, and also my professional and academic prowess. And so and I can accredit that to just structuring out my day. I don't party as much as I used to, so when I did see the post with you like dancing and doing that, so
that was my birthday, so that was a cross section of time. we don't really know what happens each day. That was just a cross section of time. It might be for clout. Who knows?
Who knows? But I don't do as much, and if I do, y'all gotta let me know exactly the time frame so that I can make sure that I get back home and stuff. So if they start a function late, and then I'm like, man, all right then y'all. Wait, you leaving? I'm like, yeah, man, this is supposed to start.
You just came.
So yeah, literally that just happened like the other week at a yard show that was at USC. So stuff be starting late.
Said a yard show. So you might want to talk about some D9 stuff for everybody who might want to, or for the men out there who might want to join?
I definitely recommend some type of campus engagement. So I tell my students all the time, and I tell my friends and family who are pursuing higher education, don't be that classroom parking lot student. It's easy to get into that rhythm of only coming to college for the class.
I think that's notorious too for commuter schools.
Yes. So whether it is a fraternity for the ladies, if it's a sorority, whether it's a co-ed academic honors program. So I'm also in a honors for educators fraternity as well, and that they also helped me get scholarships. So you got to really take advantage of the resources and get into these clubs, because if you're the only person that knows that you are great or skilled or very, very gifted at something, and you're keeping that to yourself by just being that classroom parking lot student. I wish somebody would have told me this in my undergrad, how to network better. So when it comes to my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, it really helped me out because these individuals knew what I was into. They saw the genuine passion that I had behind it, and that passion is contagious. Whatever it is that you do, it's going to come out. You just got to get around the right people that can connect you with the right people. And so, like I said, I definitely recommend it. There's things on the internet about pros and cons, but there's pros and cons in literally everything, right? There's pros and cons for taking an airplane.
Right. I heard it was safer than driving.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of driving, on average in LA is about 600 accidents. I've read somewhere.
That's why the 405 is always backed up.
Looks like it's the world's largest parking lot.
Oh wow, yeah, pretty much.
And the day it rained, 1,600 accidents.
Wow. And that was over a period of what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
14 days, do the math.
But yeah, but anyway, there's pros and cons to everything. Some people roll their ears or turn their head to organizations, fraternities. But from my perspective, it's been great. It's been a home away from home, a brotherhood that of like-minded, like-principled individuals, and you can find that within in different organizations with different friends. As long as you find that, you're gonna have a better experience, not only in school but in life as well, because those type of bonds, they last long.
Shout out to you for being an ambassador of all these great things.
Thank you.
I think also, I always make it a point, every time we record is to make sure I acknowledge and give the folks in the studio their flowers. So I just want to make sure I commend you for not just the research that you do, but for specifically practicing what you preach. Because you did research on, black male figures, you are that figure. And you are an embodiment of your research. And I say that because there's a lot of folks who do research but don't really live that life. They just look things from the outside looking in, but, they live a life of, glory and not know what it is to be in that community and just do it just to say that they've been, with XYZ community and whatnot. So I really want you to, I could see the emotion, and I want to make sure that people in the audience see that, because, we think that it's really weird in this space because we think it's uncommon, but when we're in these academic spaces, we see greatness everywhere. And then we ask everybody around, is like, where are they? So, at least that's what we want through this platform in G'd Up, is to be able for everybody to see that wherever you are, as long as the data or the Wi-Fi signal is good, and you can see it on your phone. So I just want to really, really give you your flowers, because, there's a lot of great work we got ahead of ourselves. And so, it's all about, being able to be representative of the communities that we do serve.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man. And I receive it, and I want to bounce that right back to you. The work that you do, you could have easily just kind of been selfish with the glory and the hard work and what you're doing in your research, and just built your resume and just kept it going, and just kind of was like, my name is Paul, that's between y'all.
That's between.
But you are utilizing what you're doing academically, professionally, and now here, providing educators and people that that value education, but are not just trying to do things in a traditional way, right? But actually change the game or make new lanes for individuals, because the world is changing. I feel like we're in a period of transition right now, and so that the faster we figure it out is the faster that we'll have a great rest of our lives.
And, I think that brings up another point, a good transition to what this platform is, because, and it goes back to, the racial wealth gap of college graduates and, finding, jobs. And, oftentimes we go into these majors and then we want to change, and that's why there's a lot of, on average, I believe the data says that students change on an average of 7 times their majors. And so people really just, that's really indicative of students just going to school just because, they've been pushed there. And, we want to believe that education is the equalizer, but the data also shows otherwise. And so part of what we want to do here is provide opportunities that bridge, those gaps, like you said, bridge higher education with other opportunities that are not just lucrative, but also more relatable and fun. And, a lot of that, because we're in Los Angeles, we have a big industry here in music, arts, and entertainment. And so, for those who are chiming into G'd Up, we have a lot of projects in the works about that, and it'll be brought to life with the guests that we bring in. And so, you are a very important piece to that because of what you do. So I guess that, as another transition, if you want to, if you could tell us a little bit more about your musical background and some of the services you've provided as a coordinator for these programs in the community.
Well, personally, I think I've been loving music since as long as I can remember. Just R&B, blues.
Favorite R&B singers and groups?
Favorite R&B singers.
Kind of put you on the spot there, but let's
Yeah,
do
you
it.
took that and was like, here.
Yeah, and you gonna take it too.
Oh man, oh man, oh no, man. So I mean, I gotta. Michael Jackson is very very influential. He's your favorite artist, some of your favorite artists, and really really master of what he did in his craft. As far as producers that goes into I mean, I like all the 90s. I like Jodeci and New Edition.
I could say yes to Jodeci.
I like the Temptations, right? The Four Tops.
Taking it old school. Okay.
I mean, I even like some of the soul that, our White Chocolate brothers brought to it. John B, Justin Timberlake.
Oh, John B with the okay.
Even George Michael. Some people can argue that he wasn't too. No, he has some soul. George Michael. They play his Christmas song every year. Last Christmas and Careless Whisper. I really. So a lot of my music was influenced by that R&B. But I rap because, my uncle, he taught me how to do the bars. He taught me how to rap. I was trying to rap one day in middle school, and he was like, nah, man, this is how you write bars. And then so
Random question. Mm-hmm. Is this the same uncle that you was chopping it up with the other day?
It is.
Okay.
Uncle Dazo. Shout out to Uncle Dazo.
Shout out to Uncle Dazo.
Yeah. So he taught me how to structure out like raps, because I was just doing it like it was like a unstructured poem. And then I joined ciphers in high school, and like I was winning. Like I was in freestyle competitions. I did this freestyle competition on the north side of Long Beach, and I won. I was like, oh man, I must really be good, because I like beat out these other rappers. I won a freestyle competition at Cal State LA.
Okay.
So
2 for 2.
Yeah, and so I was like, wait a minute, I'm starting to build my confidence. People were starting to ask me, to get on songs with them back then with Fruity Loops and stuff was out, and the stuff that Soulja Boy was using. So, yeah, man, I was, people were running to me, you still rap? Like, how people that hoop be like, you still hoop?
Oh, yeah.
But,
you still rap?
You still rap? I'm like, yeah. So nowadays I infuse my music into my lessons. Like I said, I want, what I'm working on now is how every week on the syllabus there's a new topic. I want to make a song and then make but to answer your question, as far as providing for students, I was a site coordinator for after school programs in inner cities called Soledad Enrichment Action.
Nice.
So it was through the Youth Policy Institute. They gave me all the Black and brown schools. So I was like, in retrospect, now I'm noticing like,
it's that cultural taxation.
They're like, Harris, can you you're familiar with the demographic and the crowd and the population, and I'm like, yeah, because it also it also made me comfortable working with students that I can relate to, and so rather than just having after school programs like painting and Glee Club and stuff like that.
Crossword puzzles and shit.
Yeah, chess club. Like I went to Guitar Center, bought the equipment, the M Audio monitors, the little interface, and I brought it to the after school program, and I started a music production and program. And when I tell you, this is one of my things that I mention in job interviews when they ask me about where I started in education. I still use this as a to get them to write down notes and to compare my notes to other candidates. I increased average daily attendance for the after school program from 40% to 100%.
Wow.
In one semester by adding music production after school programs, dance, things that the students were connected to. I had invited different artists, like
Right.
the liaisons at the schools where I was coordinating, helped to bring Waka Flocka to one of the schools. And he came. Other artists would come. It was actually the same. I was coordinating 5 sites, one in Long Beach, North Long Beach, Compton, LA. So and there were continuation schools. So in LA, it was a continuation school off Adams. It was the continuation school adjacent to Dorsey High School where I went, and I had the music program there. The girls that made the song "I'm a Boss," that's chick, psh, boom, boom, boom. I'm a boss. Psh, boom. That Nicki Minaj hopped on. They actually did that with my
Wow.
with my equipment.
That's what's up.
So it was on Ableton Live. I remember the girl when she like doom ting doom ting doom doom doom.
You gotta make sure you put that in.
So
yeah.
I remember them just playing. I was like, this beat it's okay. It's nice, but it ended up like taking off. I remember when everything was popping. Like, you know how like Instagram and TikTok is popping. Remember, the
MySpace, Facebook.
The predecessor
Yes.
of that was Vine. Remember Vine?
Yes.
So they blew up on that with that song through my after school program.
Wow.
So every time I would hear it in the club, people that knew, they would look at me like,
It would be like,
I'm like, I ain't making no money. They didn't forgot about me. And then the other after school program in Compton, it was the same school that YG went to. That's what everybody was telling me when I was there. YG went here, and
big
so
bang, take little bang.
yeah, and so it's just crazy how close proximity things are, and how like I've been, just seeing things grow and flow, and also giving students something to come to the after school program and keep them, off of the streets or out of harm's way. Like, I even had students tell me like, man, your program, man, it kept me out of some trouble, man. Dudes was looking for me, and this was really a safe place for me. And instead of walking home during those times where they were waiting for me, you created something where I can like release some anger and make some music and do all that. And so, the after school programs were failing that they gave me. So they gave me here you go. Like, they gave me and nobody's coming. We're losing funding. We already took out money, and we have these grants, but we have nothing to prove for attendance. Mm-hmm. So I came there.
100%.
They hired me, and then I brought it back up, and I still have the award for that. And so, but it's more so about the lives that were changed than something I can put on my resume, because it's the story behind the how I can quantify that success. But it's more so about the success of those students and giving them something to do between those peak hours of possibly having interactions with the law. So that's one of the good times of education that I had.
I guess for parents out there, or for the young people watching, is that program still active if they're interested in participating?
That program is no longer active. So that one's no longer active anymore. So shortly after I left and started working at the North Valley Work Source Center, doing professional development and helping people with their professional presence. So I kind of transitioned there, and they kind of let it go because of the funding had ran out. So I had to make a move, and it was really really tough to tell the students that I wasn't coming back. That's the only thing. I didn't want to be just another thing that came and left them in their lives, in the chapter of their life, because so many students are used to that, and that's why they keep their guard up. They don't feel like they can connect with you because they don't know how long they have you. And so it was tough for me to have to leave, and after making such a big impact, I would hire my friends. Like, if you had a skill, I had hiring power, so I hire one of my friends who I'm now a godfather of her son, she was the cheerleading the coordinator, right? And I would hire DJs and stuff, and it was like I was like Adam Sandler, Dave Chappelle. Like I would take my crew on the road, I would hire, and so it was just tough to tell people like, they told me that they can't renew the grant, and so that transitions into grants and the politics behind that. Man, how do you feel about that, and what would you do to try to make sure that the funding keeps going in for these people and for these populations that we're trying to serve?
Yeah, I think what's unfortunate, whether it's in higher education or in public education, a lot of the times that programs that are designed to serve students of color are often under the microscope and require research that they're effective. Even with like the TRIO programs that, they're known for, like the Educational Opportunity Program or the McNair Scholars Program, they're always under the microscope, always, under these certain metrics that, outside folks are determining, whether it's grades or whatever, just in general, just working with equity programs, they're always under the microscope. They don't always have what they call hard funding, I guess what you call it, but that's in opposition to soft funding, which is exactly how grants work. But, there's always that those unfortunate circumstances where they're always being compared to or competing with programs that are funded with guaranteed funding, such as tuition, if you're talking about colleges and universities. And, why do we always need to justify why our students of color, our marginalized student populations matter through this research when we already know that a lot of the times that they're not, making these they're not, measuring up to their counterparts is because of the resources that they have, So shout out to you for the work that you've done, in basically P through 16 education, shout out to you. So I do have two questions. One is, what was the origin of your rap name, Handsome Harris? And two, tell us a little bit about your aesthetic.
So when you say aesthetic, specific to
your clothes, the clothes that you wear.
Oh, okay.
The fashion.
So Handsome Harris is funny. I gave myself that name back in high school, out of in response to me needing to boost my self-esteem because I was kind of short. I was shorter than everybody.
You taller than me now.
Man,
I mean,
shoot, like in high school, like, cause I graduated, I was 16 my whole senior year, turned 17 in May, and then graduated high school. And then I went to Cal State LA. I was 17. The whole time I had to get like, signatures from my friends that were over to run track and stuff. And so it was that. And so I was like, oh, I'm Handsome Harris. And so that kind of stuck with me until I actually became handsome.
No.
So that's where that came from.
Please don't cry.
So that was just I grew into that name. Literally, I got taller and stuff, and cheekbones and everything.
Hey.
So and then my aesthetic, I've always been into preppy fashion since the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like in middle school, we were all on Nautica, Tommy, the good Tommy, not this stuff that's in Macy's. Eddie Bauer, Polo. I was on everybody was like looking at Carlton style, right? And so I was always into the preppy move, and so I pay homage to my grandfather now because he went to Langston University at HBCU, and he specialized in fabric and clothing and design, and had his own cleaners business, and so it was just like I was always into fashion. And then my uncle, he was into fashion. He was the first person to put me in the Source magazine as a kid, as a child model for his clothing line, Knockout Kids. And so, and I have documented proof that I was always on some preppy stuff. If you look at the To Live and Die in LA video with Tupac, I have on a red and white Tommy Hilfiger shirt, and I'm just rocking out with Tupac in that video that he filmed at the Crenshaw Mall.
Got a little 13-year-old Brandon Harris
with the little fro that I think that's when I made that whack rhyme that evolved.
It all comes back full circle.
So yeah, so that's the whole aesthetic and the whole Handsome Harris thing. It should have been called Humble Harris because, I had very humbling beginnings.
Nice. Nice. Well, that takes us to the end of this episode, but make sure to follow us and subscribe on YouTube, Anchor, and Spotify, and look forward to more from Dr. B. Harris. So I appreciate you being here, and let's continue to build and make this thing go.
Hey, I'm down with that. Appreciate you, man.
All right.
All right.